Aha. Hey, everybody who's tuned in already. I'll be with you in a second. I want to give a few more minutes for people to log in because it always takes a bit for this sort of very short emergency preview of tonight's podcast about the Supreme Court decision on tariffs today. And so stay tuned for a minute, but I'm going to be quiet for a second, and I'm still going through Justice Thomas's dissent. So all right. Yeah, so it's middle of the day, and a lot of people probably aren't free to tune in. So what's going on, everybody? Is this is a quick emergency video because why not? You can do that on Substack about the Supreme Court's decision this morning striking down the president's ability under IEPA to impose this broad spectrum of tariffs that president's been doing here for the last year and a bit. 6-3 decision, 170 pages long. I'm still getting my head around it and need to read it more carefully. An unusual coalition. It's Roberts, the Chief Justice, writing the majority opinion, along with Gorsuch is with him and Justice Barrett, and then the three liberals. But one reason it delayed this decision so long, I think, because they heard the case 3 months ago, is there are a lot of concurring opinions, especially from the liberal justices, that say yes, but and I'll go through that in a second. The dissenters are Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, and Kavanaugh, which is a bit of a surprise. I would have thought Kavanaugh would have been with the majority on this one, and possibly Gorsuch with the dissenters. But in any case, 3 or 4 observations while we're still digesting all this. One is that the main opinion depends on analysis of the text of the statute, with Chief Justice Roberts saying that the text does not support the scope that the president has brought to it. But he also says this falls under the major questions doctrine. You may remember the decision a couple of years ago involving John Yoo, by the way, is on Fox right now, and he's been on Fox 5 times already today. And so he can't join me right now, but he will be with us tonight on the podcast when we'll go through this at some detail. But the major questions decision or doctrine came out a couple of days ago, a couple of years ago, and that said, no, you can't have this sprawling EPA regulation under the statute that rhymes with keen bear fact. I'll put it that way. Anyway, without Congress explicitly and specifically constructing a statute that delegates the authority and so forth. And so now the major questions doctrine was invoked by Chief Justice Robert in his majority opinion in this case. Now the 3 liberal women on the court said, whoa. We think that you're right, and we agree with the holding that the president can't use the IEPA for these broad-scale tariffs, but really we don't want this major questions doctrine brought into it. We don't need that. And of course, what's the reason for that? The reason for that is the major questions doctrine is a huge blow against the administrative state, against the ability of the left to govern us without our consent, which is, of course, that's the heart of their project. And so they don't want this principle further extended because, by the way, if we have President Newsom in 3 or 4 years or someone like that, there's going to be a lot of pressure to declare a climate emergency and use emergency powers under this act to impose all kinds of stupid climate rules that now Trump is rolling back and that Congress has never passed. So there's that. Second, Justice Thomas's dissent relies on the fact that the president has much more latitude on external affairs. And because trade, and especially some of the uses Trump has used, in particular, recently threatening high tariffs on, say, India if they don't stop buying Russian oil, which India has now agreed not to do. We've just taken that tool away from Trump. And so, for the people who say Trump's been too soft on Russia, this decision now possibly derives him of a tool for using his trade powers to affect a prime foreign policy aim of the establishment. So that's kind of interesting. There are other trade statutes that Trump may still be able to use. I haven't so far, and I keep looking for a reaction from Trump. You might expect that he would have a rage tweet on Truth Social complaining about the court. If he has done that yet, I have not seen it. My guess is the White House staff and the lawyers are huddling saying, yeah, maybe the court is narrowly speaking right, and we should not have used this statute to try and impose these tariffs. But there may be other statutes. There's Section 232, I think it's called, that allows tariffs in cases of national security. So maybe those tariffs threatened against India and other countries and China will still survive in another form. The final thing that was not part of this decision is, what about the $150 billion plus in tariff revenues that were collected over the last year? Will the government have to refund those tariffs to whoever paid them, the companies that paid them or foreign parties? I don't know. That was not an issue in this case. It was not presented in this case. That will depend upon a separate legal action. And I think some suits have been filed to that effect, but we'll just have to see about how that falls out. Trump wants to give us all rebates. They've been talking about this for a while from the tariffs. It's partly an economic stimulus measure. That's going to be on hold now, pending what happens with that question about, here I'm going to use my best Paul Dooley from Breaking Away, refund. That's going to be a big question for Treasury now. And needless to say, our budget deficit's big enough without having to refund $150 billion to whomever. So those are a few opening thoughts. I see a couple of comments already from people saying, gosh, Robert sure is creative. Creative in the Obamacare case, we all remember from 2012. And now he's showing a distinct lack of similar creativity in finding a way to rescue President Trump's use of the tariff power under IEEPA. We'll see. We'll kick that around tonight in the podcast. But that's all I have to say, sort of quickly off the top of my head. It's possible if Fox News ever gets done with John Yoo in the next couple hours, I'll come back here live and we'll. And Lucretia is in a meeting right now. So we might come back and do another sort of 10-minute brief observations on the case. And I'm going to keep going through it and see what jumps out at me. I'll just say one more miscellaneous thought. I was saying last week that all the headlines said that the Trump administration has killed the government's ability to control the climate. I mean, that was literally a headline that was stupid, like we have a knob somewhere. And of course, what people pointed out is, no, it didn't say that. It just said the government can't do it. The executive branch can't do it unless Congress acts. And the same thing is true in this case of tariffs. The Congress can delegate broader authority to the president. And there are existing statutes, as I've already mentioned, for certain conditions if they want to. So this doesn't say that the president can't impose tariffs broadly. The president can. That's what the Smoot-Hawley tariff was all about in 1930, whenever that passed. So once again, don't be misled by exaggerations of what this case says. I think it's really on the whole, a welcome rebalancing and bolstering of the separation of powers between the branches, and reminding us that Congress needs to step up and do its job. So I'll pause here for a second if anybody wants to throw in a question or comment in the live chat. Otherwise, I'm way behind on things, and I'm going to read this decision and do 20 other things here today. And I hope you will all tune in tonight when we'll have the podcast group back at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. A little late, but not too late for a drink and to heckle us as we go. So, and I said this would just be 10 minutes, and we're up at 9 minutes and 50 seconds. So, without further ado, I think I'll sign off for now. And like I said, we might be back in an hour. We'll just see. Anyway, thanks, gang, for tuning in.